Hello to everybody out there. Some of my subscribers on YouTube. This is Duran. I really haven't made too many videos where the camera was facing front. A lot of times when I talk and I give and this is one of the reasons, like, the camera's not showing me looking straight at you. So that's another reason why I don't know why it can't focus to the extent where I'm looking directly at you guys. It's like I'm kind of looking down instead of looking to see. My eyes can't even focus looking straight at you. But either way, we all going to get it in. Of course, some of my friends on here know I recently took the Ancestry.com test. And one thing about me, I don't just do anything off a whim. I research. I look for information all the time. I look for the pros and cons. I look for the people who says it worked for them. I look for people who criticized it. And then I make my decision based on the information and based on what I desire to learn. So that's the thing. Today, I chose to wear this dashiki. For those who don't know me, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, these are the colors of the team, the Baltimore Orioles. So it's like the city's colors, the team. So, of course, this is a West African dashiki. So I'm representing both of my cultures, the African and American. So as an American, Baltimore is my hometown. I'm from Maryland. So these are the colors. And this is also West African. I know I have West African ancestry among South Central African ancestry or whatever. So I'm going to show you guys my results, but also I want to tell you my story. A lot of people just take these results and they don't show you why or tell you the background. Man, growing up, being an African American, the only people who really talked about Africa like that, they were either Black Muslims, the Nation of Islam, or they were Afrocentric, and all those people were always made to look crazy, And we grew up, and the only thing we knew about Africa was slavery. We had roots, and the only thing we learned about George Washington Carver, Frederick Douglass. I mean, the same folks. We had limited information about Africa, and everything else we learned about Africa was demonized. You know what I'm saying? From what was it? They show spiritual rituals. They show voodoo or the Orisha, religions in Africa. They would always talk about cannibalism, civil war, poverty, all these different things that was associated with Africa was always almost negative. When you grow up, my mom says that when I came out, when I was a little baby, I was actually lighter than the rest of them, in which I always grew up feeling like I was dark. My brother's a little bit darker than me, but what I'm saying? Both of us are dark-skinned men, boys. Well, boys back then, but men now. But my mother said it was a point where I was lighter than all of them, but it doesn't really matter to me. And you grow up, people say you Black African booty scratcher and all these different things like that. And it's almost to the point that if somebody call you or you look like an African, you ready to fight. Like, why is being called an African so offensive that you ready to fight a person about it? And it's nothing above the truth. That's what we are. I don't know what a lot of African Americans or Black Americans think that they are. I don't know. I know that a lot of us have mixtures and things like that, but there's a whole lot of mixture around the world. Who can say what's pure and what's not pure anymore or whatever, But for you to get offended because somebody called you African is like crazy. You know what I'm saying? Somebody ready to fight you. What? Who you calling Black African? And why you don't talk to me like that? And I'm not ugly. And it's always synonymous with being ugly. You Black African and it's ugly. It's always ugly. That's why we have this thing in our community where African Americans are obsessed. And I don't see. It's one thing for somebody to sit me down And they break it down to where this is why I believe that we have Native American in our family, and this is why I like it, and this is what I enjoy, and the culture, the spirituality, their contributions to this country, or whatever the case. Then I could rock with you, even though I know more African Americans are mixed with European and Irish and German and all that than anything else. You understand what I'm saying? African and European. That's what most of us are. But I can respect when somebody gives their point. But most of the time, when somebody brags or somebody insinuates that there's some Native American, 9 times out of 10 is because of features, facial features. If your eyes slant this way, if your hair bevels down this way, you gotta have some Native American. That's what makes you uniquely prettier than the rest of the so-called regular looking black people or African looking people. It's something gorgeous and different about you. And that's another way of saying that if you're 100% African or have African features, you're ugly. The only way you can be that pretty and your hair can be that manageable and that pretty and gorgeous and luxurious, you have to be mixed with these Native Americans. And it's just goofiness. And a lot of blacks don't understand how much the continent of Africa has contributed to human society, period. We don't learn that stuff. You know what I'm saying? We don't learn that stuff. We are only black or we are only African around, what do you call that? Black History Month, a month. And even within that month, we don't learn about what we're supposed to learn. I'm wondering, is it Black history or Black American history around that time? You see what I'm saying? Because if you go into Black history, you will realize that it's more black people in Central America and South America than it is in the United States. And I didn't find that out until I traveled. Another thing is too, man, is that for me looking into my ancestry and using ancestry.com too, is that my mom, she doesn't know her real father. She only knows his first name, which is James Coleman. And so what I mean is that I don't know my real grandfather, and he has brothers. So that means it's a whole family out there that I don't even know. You see what I'm saying? And they say that he came from the islands. Now, my dad, me, I grew up on reggae music. I grew up on Super Cat. I didn't even understand what they were saying, but I felt the connection to what they were saying. You know, how the cadences, how the music was. I always felt drawn to that, aside from folks saying that my grandfather may be from the Caribbean. So one part of my ancestry results showed Ghana. Ghana was the highest. But I've had people from Nigeria walk up to me and say, "You look Nigerian." I had people like I've been to Jamaica, I've been to the Bahamas, I've been to Aruba, I've been to Bermuda more than once, and I've been to Trinidad and Tobago. And when I go to places like this, somebody always say, "You look like such and such." And I'm like, it's not that I look like a Jamaican. It's not that I look like a Haitian, or it's not that I look like somebody from the Bahamas. Whatever part of Africa that they took these people, I look similar to those folks. That's just plain and simple. Because Jamaican, all these other things are nationalities. Those are not racist. So one of the things too, man, that got me, even back into considering Africa is just that, when you go to the Caribbean, they're giving you Africa. You can't feed a baby solid food or meat. They're going to choke. They can't digest it. So when you go to these islands and you dance into the music and you feel like, yeah, the island stuff, that's really Africa. The music, the food. So the more I got into the island stuff, the more I was able to be led into the African stuff. You know what I mean? And that's what it was for me. I love traveling. Traveling is education. And I'm going to tell you, when you get educated, you get angry. Because you feel like, yo, this has been kept from me this long? Why? Why are they lying like this? Why aren't enough people showing you what it really is? but you get an education when you travel. My favorite channel is the Travel Channel. I love Dr. Henry Louis Gates, who worked with, geneticists. He's an African American studies professor. I mean, I love this guy. Finding Your Roots, Black in Latin America. Oh my God. I love Henry Louis Gates. Anthony Bourdain. He has a show on CNN called Unknown Parts. He had no reservations. And Andrew Zimmerman. That was like the gross guy who would go around, tasting every nasty little thing. And he was all around the world, but I love it because you learn. I love my congregation. I mean, we got people from Cuba, Trinidad, Ethiopia. So just being exposed to them, always made me curious. I remember one time I was working at this one child care center because I'm an after school and child care teacher. And this lady from Kenya, her people are the Maasai. And she told me to my face, she said, you know what? She said, you look like these men called the Lua, a fisherman tribe in Kenya. Also, I was walking with a brother to Costco, and this man stopped me and he said, where are you from? And my brother was like, he's from, Baltimore. He's from Maryland. He's from Maryland. So I asked him, I said, why you ask me? He said, because I'm from Uganda and you look like one of my relatives. And that's what just sparked my whole interest. Like, dude, I got to see what's going on. I say last year, I had the privilege of going to Johannesburg, South Africa. And I'm telling you, them folks in South Africa, I love them. I love them. They got a swagger like no other. I love them, man. And even when I went there, it was so much diversity. Now, on my mother's side, I have light skin family, hazel eyes, light skin, brown eyes, light skin. And when I went to South Africa, I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw so many people who look like my cousins, who look like people I know in Atlanta, because now I live in Atlanta. I'm from Baltimore, but I live in Atlanta. And it just blew my mind, man. It just blew my mind. It's 50-something countries in Africa. Everybody doesn't look the same. So African Americans resemble a lot of people from various countries in Africa. You don't have to be mixed up with everything to look different. Africa has a whole bunch of different countries and they got different features, different hair textures, and it's wonderful. So I'm going to tell you, search your roots. There are people who feel like, man, history don't matter. History will tell you why certain social and social economic constructs exist today, how these things came into place, why we look at people a certain way, why they look at us a certain way. When you look into history, so you look into history, you look at genetics, you find out these things. You see what I'm saying? But let me get you into the results. Here it is right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's 84% African. The highest is Ivory Coast, Ghana, 28%. You can see Cameroon and Congo. You see Nigeria, Southeastern Bantu, Benin and Togo. So you see the results right here. I don't know if it's backwards or whatever. But I'll just read it. Ethnicity estimate for Duran. Ivory Coast, Ghana, 28%. So it's 84% as a whole. Ivory Coast, Ghana, 28%. Cameroon, Congo, 23%. Nigeria, 9%. And it's a sister named Jiraloja. And I was telling her about this. And she said, you're not Nigerian? I was like, nah, not according to this. I guess not. Not 9%. But she said, you look Nigerian. I got a brother from Jamaica. Nah, you don't look Nigerian. They got round heads. And so it's just crazy. So like I said, once again, my estimate for Africa is 84%. Cameroon and Congo, 23%. Like I said, Ivory Coast, Ghana, 28%. Cameroon, Congo, 23%. Nigeria, 9%. Africa, Southeastern Bantu, 8%. And now that's like going down from Kenya to Angola to Namibia to Zambia, South Africa, that whole little dip in the south, 8%. Benin, Togo, 8%. My trace regions are Senegal, 5%, Africa North, 1%, Africa South Central Hunter-Gatherer, 1%, and Mali, less than 1%. I have a trace region from Asia South, then that's less than 1%, but they found the trace. And there was a big circle around India and that whole Sri Lanka area. So that's crazy. Now, Europe. Now, since my name is McDowell, I thought that I would have more Irish, more Scottish. But it's 15%, and it's broken down. The greatest percentage, now, 15%, and then it's broken down. But 7% of my heritage is Great Britain, which encompasses England, Wales, and also Scotland. All right. My trace regions are Europe, West, 3%, the Iberian Peninsula, 2%, and it's not even less than 2%. They found 2% of Spanish, Spain. All right, less than 1% for Italy and Greece, less than 1% for Scandinavia, less than 1% for Ireland. And I'm going to show you all the connections. So this is what mines look like. You see it? So I'm going to take DNA tests from other places. There's one called African Ancestry, in which I think that's the same ones that Henry Louis Gates used on Oprah and different ones. But Ghana, I could see that. You know, people have said that to me. A lot of Jamaicans have ancestry from Ghana, from the Ashanti tribe and the Akan. And a lot of people say, oh, you remind me of a Jamaican, this and that. So I believe the Ghana part heavily. This is another reason why I really like this. So after they get your results, you know, they link you up with possible cousins. Now I'm thinking, okay, when I get my results, you know, it would be interesting to see what people are my cousins or whatever, right? I'm like, all right, cool. Yo, why did my real cousins pop up? I was not expecting to see my real cousins. Like, these are people I know. Like, I know this is my cousin. Like, a few of them. But then when I call my aunt up and I start naming names, I named one name, which is like Garrison. I'm like, auntie, blah, 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 blah. She's like, Garrison, that's your grandmother's maiden name. What's the first name? It says, you know, like a username, and sometimes with usernames they use like 1, 2, 3, 4, blah blah. So it's like 1, 2, 3 Garrison. And she said, well, look into that. So these are my cousins who they said DNA matches, and this is my cousin Tom, my cousin Tierra, my cousin Tommy right here. So that's another reason why I'm like, yo, this is cool, you know. So I don't know, y'all keep searching. Next year, hopefully, I'll get to go back to South Africa. I didn't get to go to Cape Town last time. I need to go to Ghana now. But I always wanted to go to Ethiopia first because I love it. And like I just said, man, it's funny that we got to do these DNA tests because it's so obvious. We're wearing our ancestors, what the ancestors gave us. We walking around with it on our faces. We walking around with the evidence. But because of what we've been taught and brainwashed about it, we got to sit there and do DNA tests to see what's what, you know, and we're walking around with the evidence. Like, what more evidence do you want? You know, I know a brother who looked like Danny Glover. Yeah, man, I want to see if I'm African. What? Come on, bro. What you think you are? Chinese, Japanese? What? You think you're from Hawaii? Like, dude, so, you know, but, yo, much love, to everybody else that's out there doing their test and, you know, trying to, you know, link back to their history or whatever. Because history, man, history means a lot. History is the key because it tells you why certain things are in place as they are today. And I'm telling you, they tell you a lot about yourself. And when you do these ancestry tests, it lets you know that you're not just buying by, okay, I'm from America, I was born in this state. You have, your narrative is greater than that. You have a connection with the rest of the world. You have a connection with the rest of the world. You're not just bound to this one little region or whatever. You have ancestry that connects you to this big planet that we have. So don't be stagnant in your thinking, and in your growth. So peace out, y'all. Hey, if anybody has taken a test, if you're from the Caribbean, if you're from the East Coast and you have a high percentage of Cameroon and Congo, get at me and comment below. All right. Peace.